What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning on the top of the map in the blue color, playing as Zeus. His name is Ulysses. His opponent today in the red color, playing as Zeus as well. His name is Joe. This is game number 6 of this best of 9 series. A mammoth of a series thus far, and incredibly close. Ulysses and Joe neck and neck, each game going for a very, very long time, to say the very least here, ladies and gentlemen. A quick recap for those who have kind of just joined recently. We've had Joe play and win. So let's just quickly recap the rules. So you play a god. If you win with the god, you can't play it for the rest of the series. So that means, what gods has Joe won with? There's been 3 wins. So he's won with Isis, he's won with Ra, he's won with Poseidon. Ulysses has won with Uranus and won with Kronos. So there's none of that over there. So now we're seeing the Zeus mirror. Ulysses has still got a lot of really, really strong picks that he can play in the rest of this series, whereas Joe's only got a couple left that we're really aware of. Now, Joe is, I would argue, very strong random god play. He's been playing the game for ages. It's just whether or not he can compete with Ulysses' kind of random gods in a way. So will we see Joe pulling out some Norse here in this series, or will we just be seeing all the Greeks and the Egyptians? Because all of the Egyptians play fairly similarly, and Joe obviously can play a fairly strong Poseidon, as we saw in the last game, so his ability to play Hades would not be that bad. But the question really does come down to the question that everyone should be asking is, will Joe go for Set again in this series, knowing that Ulysses is probably going to be playing just the Greeks for the remainder of this series, because he's used his Atlanteans, and Set not the greatest against the Greeks. So maybe Joe going to be steering away from that. But then, seeing as Joe realizes he's probably up against the Greeks, he might be like, well, maybe Odin's not a bad pick, because we have seen Odin have a lot of success against Poseidon, and a lot of success against Zeus, and a lot of success against Hades in the recent years. So we'll see how this is all going to go. It's a very, very open map, so I would be surprised to see these players not go for early center. And we have seen a lot of very interesting, diverse playstyles here with the Greek civilization. So let's go over a couple of strategies that are possible here for Zeus in this matchup. So the Zeus mirror of all of the Greek mirrors is the most interesting, in my opinion. So you do have the ability to go Athena. If you see an Athena opportunity, you can make it work against the Centaur, though a really strong controlled Centaur play might be able to stop you. Though with Bolt and all of the extra added benefits of being aggressive, you might be able to find a win with Athena, but very rare do we see that. More likely we see Hermes. So having Hermes means you have Ceasefire. So there's a couple of options you can do. There is a 5-15 build order. In order to get both your talent centers up, you can cast Ceasefire, get those up if you're under pressure, and continue along there and go for a very strong boom into Centaur behind that if you feel like it, or you can just kind of go do whatever you want, whatever feels good. Other strategies involve going straight for the Sylvan Lore Centaur and trying to micro around, kill off your opponent's Centaur, find an advantage there. And then finally, there is just the 2-town center kind of defensive boom play, which I haven't seen much of with Zeus, but it works really well for Hades and Poseidon against Zeus. So why would it not work for Zeus against what Zeus does as well? So we do see Hermes coming through for both players. Hand axe coming through for Joe. And Ulysses opting not to get hand axe. This is something that is kind of, I guess, modern in a way. Ulysses actually opting to get the Jason out earlier and Joe going for hand axe. But the idea of not getting hand axe for Greek actually makes a lot of sense, because it only gives about 7% bonus in terms of true woodcutting bonus, whereas the big bonus comes from Bowsaw. So you feel a little bit hard done by. I tell a lie. We do have Jason over here, and he has picked up Cathara of Apollo. This is a big ticket relic here. Gives an extra 10% villager move speed, so that helps out a lot in this game. As we see Sylvan Lore immediately getting researched. The Jason gets bolted, and the relic gets The relic gets stolen away, and Ulysses says, hee hee hee, as he wanders back home with said relic. And I mean, maybe not obviously, but you want to be bolting Odysseus here most of the time here. But we might see Joe bolting this Jason to grab that relic back here, as Ulysses is a sneaky player. He says, my relic, my precious. And he's going to run back home. You'll see search around the map now with his center, looking for something to kill. The village is pulling back onto the pigs here for Joe playing this one. Very, very safe at this point. Sylvan Law is through for Ulysses and has now started for Joe. So he's going to be looking for something to target. This location over here seems very, very good. If we see what Joe's scouted, he does know that there's a hunting operation going over here, so he will get some advantage where that's concerned. Meanwhile, we do see this centaur is now onto the wood line of Joe. Joe not paying attention here. He's going to be losing a couple of villages here if he doesn't pay attention onto this one. Looks like Ulysses is pulling back, as maybe it was just a bit of a bait and switch from Joe, as the villagers are now under serious duress here as a ceasefire is forced by Joe. Beautiful play there, and this kind of shows that Joe's knowledge of this matchup is at a ridiculously high level. Whether or not this is what Joe intended here, but simply just keeping his villagers on food on the pigs early means he's got no weaknesses in his position, and he can put the pressure on without too much of an issue there. As we do see the bolt there going onto the Odysseus in the middle of a ceasefire seems a little bit strange here, but it is... It is what it is, and we can see some walls coming up now from Ulysses, as the centaur just simply going to be scouting around, trying to find where to go next, and we will be seeing a town center getting dropped on this location right now. So Joe going to be taking this one down the boom route. Ulysses, on the other hand, has to go for a little bit of a react here, as the wall's going to come up over on this position to try and keep his villagers safe from those pesky centaur raids. And now Joe's just going to sit back and say, all right, I did my damage. I'm happy. And we'll see where to from now, as he's going to continue the centaur production. Now, the question comes, do you stay? Do you build units at this point? Because why build units here is the real question. Why build units? It's to put pressure onto your opponent and get villager kills and take map control. Is there any real reason to do that here? My argument is not really. So was there any other reason to build units? Maybe to kill off enemy heroes so your centaur can do a little better. But you could just boom at the back here and just go for a fast mythic off of 2 town centers at this point. As we are seeing the centaur going to be moving in here. Joe does spot this, going to turn around, get some special attacks onto the enemy centaur. Ulysses has to retreat away. The hero's just hanging out on this position over here, as Ulysses just about to get his town center up. He's only got 4 villages on this one, and he does get a little bit hard done by this town center, because there's no close hunt around here. As over here, the villagers are going to be fairly close to the hometown center. Walls coming up on this position. We see the centaur moving around on this map. We see the villagers actually being pushed off on this settlement, as these villagers are speedy because they've got that Kithara of Apollo relic, but the centaur are still, better yet, much more speedier. As you must think, surely the centaur are going to get a villager kill here, but they don't manage to. And the towns are being denied, but is it going to be that big of a deal? That's the big question here, as we do see the Jason and the Odysseus coming in, as now Ulysses gets a big shot off. We'll kill off 1 centaur, as we see 2 centaurs going down for the price of 0. Buy 2, pay for 0. That seems to be, no? I don't know what I'm trying to say. The villagers turning back over onto this settlement here, as Joe retreating away with his heroes. It would have been nice for him to save that bolt for that position there. That could have been a really, really nice play. As we do see Ulysses getting himself the 3rd town center here. Do we see any stable for Joe? Answer, no. And he doesn't need one. he just needs to throw an armory down and keep building centaur. But he has made life difficult for himself, losing 2 centaur. Ulysses now with 4. So the number of myth units here starting to grow pretty drastically. Ulysses actually has himself 30 favor in the bank as well. So that's a lot more potential centaur that Ulysses can build here in the coming minutes of this game. And now we do see Joe grabbing his own 3rd town center over here. And we have a true Greek boom war in the truest sense here. So it all comes down to the Underworld gameplay here in a big way, I would say. But both players will have access to Underworld, so they should be able to react. And then we see what's going to happen from there, as both players, I mean, the thing is that Joe's got a villager advantage of, well, 30, what's this? Nearly, he's got 10 villager advantage, just about. And it's going to be, the gap's going to be closed just a little bit because we've got 3 town centers for just a little bit longer, but Joe will come out with the slight advantage where that's concerned. And now we've got centaur circling around the back here. See if he's going to be able to snipe a centaur or 2 as they come through and retreat away. And both guys go, hello. No, I don't want any part of this. Before saying goodbye. 64 population apiece here. 51 villages, 45 villages, 3 town centers apiece. And in the end of it all, watchtowers coming through for Joe. Is there any stables? There is stable military academy coming through for Ulysses, as well as an archery range here. Joe going for the same thing, but both players not producing any units, which is definitely good to see here, as it shows some awareness of why you want to build units. And Joe getting the watchtowers as well does show that he's got some, wants to be playing safe here, which makes a lot of sense. Meanwhile, the walls are all up on this position as the centaur trying to break through. There is going to be a sneaky way through for these centaurs. They're going to come on onto these villages. They snipe one down here. That's going to be a big help there for Ulysses. He's now in onto this position, going to be taking down some villages over here, but the centaur coming through for Joe to try and take these out. We see one villager go, or 2 villagers going down, 1 centaur going down. The centaurs pick off another one as now Ulysses is maybe kicking himself for getting in here, trading 2 centaur for 2 villagers there. As Joe's centaur are going to chase these ones away. We'll see if he gets another special attack off. There's some low HP centaur here. If he splits up his centaur nicely, he will be able to pick these off. Meanwhile, the town centaur doesn't manage to pick those off. 3 HP, 4 HP remaining there as Ulysses returns back. Starting to see some units coming through for Ulysses. The question is are they going to do anything? Remember, Joe does have ceasefire here, so he can fairly comfortably not produce units here. Just cast ceasefire, go next stage. You see the farms coming down for Joe beautifully over here, as well as he's got tons of wood in the bank to make these farms as fast as he possibly can. Meanwhile, we see some units coming through for Ulysses. And will Joe be making anything as a response, or just saying, okay, lol? Looks like he has to be a little bit concerned here. He can't just allow this. He does throw down a stable on this position, and still no production of units. Just making villages. As the centaur coming over here to pick off a couple of these units here as well. 1 villager does go down. 71 villages for Joe. 69 villages for Ulysses. As that villager differential has been cut down here considerably. And Joe going to very, very quickly get to this next portion of the game. 80 villagers in the bank. More buildings getting thrown down. No units getting produced. There's still this hole over here, which makes me worried. I'd like that to be just a gate get thrown up or something there. Meanwhile, another wall, another gap over here into Joe's base makes things very, very dangerous here, as signal fire is going to be coming through. And I mean, Joe with plenty of resources in the bank, but not spending them here. He could be making Toxody. I don't recommend Toxody. Just build farms. Less villages on wood would go a long way here. As Ulysses swinging around, and now we can see Joe going to be clicking up to the next stage. I'd be surprised to see anything but Apollo here, as the armory on the way. Meanwhile, we see some centaur have managed to find some villages. Apollo on the way for Ulysses actually first here, as Ulysses macro just simply on point. You can see Joe's just floating resources. He's just like, yeah, I can get the resources, but I don't know how to spend them. Whereas Ulysses is like, not only can I get the resources, but I also can spend them. I mean, that's a weird thing. Yep, that's what he's saying, 100%. As Joe does turn around, gets a bit of a cheeky shot off there. The Pegasus going to be flying around to try and hit something somewhere. As now the villagers coming through onto this to try and take a little bit more of the map. I love this play from Joe. Just taking more and more of the map, walls going up everywhere, exactly what he wants to do. Apollo now coming through for Joe, very, very late, but Joe's got plenty of resources to go to the Mythic Age straight away here, as the unit's going to be greeted right in the center of this map to try and deal with each other. Joe's got 108 population, Ulysses 112 here. There's more Toxotes coming out, lots of military buildings getting dropped down for Joe, as he really should be doing that. And now the units can kind of fight each other off, as we've had 14 minutes of kind of jockeying around in this map, and Olympic parentage coming through, medium archers coming through for Joe as well, as Hoplite getting taken down over here. As the Hoplite over here gets killed off, the Centaur doing some damage as well, as the Odysseus will look to get some more damage done in the back, as the Hoplites getting taken down. We'll see Ulysses retreating back. He's getting himself his Manticore here, 145, population. Nearly enough resources to advance to the Mythic Age. Joe, on the other hand, not enough food in the bank, but man, Ulysses' macro just so disgustingly on point here. Do we see a market anywhere? I don't see the market getting dropped, but more buildings coming down all over the map here, protecting his third town center. The walls over here going to be huge as well, as Joe might want to constrict Ulysses into his base by walling Ulysses in, which is exactly what he's going to do there. As Shaft Mine, Bowsaw, Irrigation coming through for Joe as well. Market, a villager ready to go as soon as he feels like it in this corner. And we also see the market coming down in the corner for Ulysses. He's actually sending 7 villagers over there to do it. Fair enough, as now the armies can fight each other very, very nicely here. We see the Centaur doing what they can do. The Manticore moving over here as well, try and get that damage done. The splash damage onto those Toxotes is important, but right now, Joe just saying, going to be targeting down the Manticore first, finish that one off, and then continue the fight as best as he possibly can. As you can see, the Manticore does get almost sniped off. Heavy archers comes through as Ulysses has to retreat back. Slight advantage here for Joe in terms of the pressure, but Ulysses clicks up to Hephaestus first here as the market now up for Joe. He's going to be able to click up as well, not going to be that far behind in terms of the Mythic Age. So everything equal here. Both players 80 villages, and a long way to go here in this finals to be sure. As the archery, as there's really no way to push without a fortress here. If you have a fortress and you make Petropolis, you might be able to make a push. But Joe does not have that. He's throwing more military buildings in the middle of the map, going to control all of this center where there's basically nothing. There's just a handful of berries, gold mine, and that's about it. As the units are going to be moving in to greet each other over here, we do have the heavy hoplites versus heavy toxotes. Which ones win here is the big question, as Ulysses' army does get pushed back. The fortress is going to be coming up for Joe. Hephaestus coming through. The big thing that I talk about in the Greek mirror is, like, you don't really need to build Toxotes, because you can just skip those upgrades and skip those military buildings in favor of getting more farms and getting fortresses and getting Heliopolis. If you're going straight to the Mythic Age, like these guys are kind of done here in this game. As you do see Ulysses, he's looking for a Underworld somewhere here in the main base of Joe. With Hephaestus coming through, he will have access to the first Colossus, as we do see the Masons on the way. Maybe obviously not, but Joe's not going to want to cast ceasefire. He wants to save that to potentially steal a town center or something like that. As the unit's pushing through, going to try and take down Ulysses' Toxotes army here. Differential is very, very close in terms of population, so Joe's got to be just a little bit careful here. Hephaestus hits first. No Plenty Vault getting cast straight away, so he's losing a little bit of that advantage, but it doesn't matter all too much here. As Joe pulls back, he's continued taking down these Toxotes hoplites as best as he possibly can. Plenty Vault getting thrown down for Joe, as Plenty Vault also getting thrown down for Ulysses. Forge of Olympus coming through for both players. A slight advantage for Ulysses, but it's not going to be anything tangible here. As we're starting to see those Heliopoli coming straight out for Joe. Such a vitally important unit in the Greek Mirror, but Ulysses prioritizing that Bellerophon, which is also an incredibly important unit. How many hoplite are actually here for Ulysses? He's got himself 7 hoplite, handful over here as well, so 11 hoplite. He could take down this town center here very fast, but I mean, you kind of just want to Underworld back here yourself, as we do see that's exactly what Ulysses is doing. Joe's going to have to Underworld here himself, and he can just take out the Underworld passage of he cast ceasefire. Okay, I mean, fair enough. Cast ceasefire, wander back. That's another option here, but I get the feeling that Ulysses will just abandon this this outpost, and when the army gets back, and then just push through into the middle and take this middle position while the Underworld's getting dealt with. Either that, or we'll see a whole bunch of buildings getting sprayed around here in the near future. It looks like that's not what Ulysses is doing. Sorry, has to pull his villagers back actually here. A couple of buildings are indeed getting thrown up, but I definitely don't think this ceasefire is the way to go. Underworld back, kill this off, and then you can push back in. You can even like leave some units in here. What are the granaries for? I mean, to make life difficult, I guess. A couple of upgrades coming through for Joe's getting bronze weapons, bronze mail, bronze shields, Hand of Talos, champion infantry, champion archers versus Ulysses. He's only got full copper at this moment. Just not quite enough resources or not enough armor. He's not sure what's going on there. Unit's going to be starting this fight straight away. We see the Heliopolis going to be taking down the military academy over here, as it seems like Ulysses' army is a little bit higher quality than Joe's at this point. We see the Bellerophon coming in, going to be jumping straight in, going to get immediately targeted down. You're going to be very careful with your Bellerophon jumping straight into the army. It means he's going to get taken down immediately. We're starting to see some watchtowers getting built up over here. We do have some stray villagers going to be throwing down some buildings there in the near future here. We see the Silver Colossus coming in onto this position. The military academy going to be getting taken down. Joe drops down to 128 of 160 population, where it's Ulysses at 160 of 160 population. The towers getting thrown up on this position, as well as the Underworld passage is going to be the target of the Heliopolis. It might be worth it for the hoplite to get pulled off this town center, go after those Heliopolis to make sure the Underworld passage doesn't get taken down. Meanwhile, we are seeing Ulysses' Bellerophon going to town over here, as Ulysses has managed to make this timing of getting champion infantry, champion Toxotes work beautifully against Joe, as the town center is very close to falling. Towers are up, more units flooding in onto this position. The fortress is up over here. I would be surprised to see no siege coming through in the near future here, as the units looks like Joe has managed to get to full population here, so he might be able to hold, but the pressure is mounting, and I mean, everything matters here for Ulysses. If he doesn't win this fight, he's going to be subject to a potential Underworld at any point in the coming moments of this game, as the villagers do have to get garrisoned here. So right now, Joe is 17 villagers idle, which is a lot of villagers idle. And now Heliopolis coming through, going to be targeting down this town center. There is masons. There's no architects in here. The Heliopolis trying to finish off these watchtowers as best as they possibly can, but if Joe loses this town center, it is absolutely game over here, as the Heliopolis pushing in here. See the champion Toxotes trying to do as much damage as they possibly can. We see the Heliopolis here getting taken down by the villagers. The tower is up. The Toxotes are here. We see a Silver Colossus through for Ulysses, which is going to be a very difficult unit for Joe to deal with here, because he's got no heroes out at this point. The Toxotes doing some good damage. We see the watchtower coming up here as well, as 1,000 HP remaining for Joe. We see the Bellerophon coming through, the Odysseus coming through, as well as the Toxotes move in onto this position. And now the fortified town center under siege yet again, and there's 2 Heliopolis now in here. The villagers get pulled off the town center, but there is a very easy defense here for Ulysses. He can jump into the Underworld passage, click back up here and then send it back through, and then those villagers are going to stop attacking. But it seems to me like Joe is not going to be able to hold this town center any longer. Joe dropping down to 140 population, 65 villages, 11 donkey caravans, lots of villagers getting picked off, being idle over here. The Colossus does end up falling. The Bellerophon manages to take that one down, but seems too little too late as more units piling into here. Ulysses does only have 133 of 160 population, so Joe is trading well here. If he can win this fight, he's going to be completely fine, as this game is very likely going to be able to continue here, as Ulysses has to pull back just a little bit. He's short. Ulysses just too short on resources to continue staying above 130 population. So right now, even with Joe being down a town center, he is still well and truly alive in this game. However, the Heliopoli are going to be helping out a ton, dealing with these Toxotes very, very nicely. We see some more towers coming down. Ulysses just has to kind of bide his time here, get to the population advantage, which is now at 140 population, slowly but surely continuing this game. We've got more units coming in from the long route here. We could see Joe going for Heliopoli, trying to take this town center down on the front instead of worrying about the back. We could have seen a counter Underworld or anything else from Joe, but looks like Ulysses is going to grab this position for himself, grab this town center. He does still have to worry about an Underworld. There is this town center very naked up at this top side of the map here, and Joe just needs to get out some siege to go and kill that, but it is attempting to hold here as best as he can. Ulysses, not enough resources to get this town center up for himself just yet. He's got himself 80 villages, 7 donkey caravans, 158 of 160 population. The Bellerophon coming back in for Joe here, as it's going to jump in and try and take down another Heliopoli. Does manage to pick that one off as the Toxotes going to town on the enemy Toxotes. A nice marker here from Joe, trying to pick off as many of those as he possibly can. Has to be careful not to target down those Heliopoli in the front here, but Ulysses is doing a good job making sure that his Heliopoli are right on top of his Toxotes here, as we see another Silver Colossus coming in onto this position. We do see the Bellerophon trying to take down the Colossus here as the Hoplite are streaming in onto this position. We'll see the Ulysses is going to be attempting to grab this town center for himself. Throwing some towers down here wouldn't go too far astray here, as the villagers of Ulysses say, I want to get involved in this fight just a little bit. No, he needs to be a little bit more careful with those. You see the Bellerophon going to be taking down this this Colossus as he's busy eating trees here. And now the villagers have decided to grab this town center. He's got 18 villagers building this town center as fast as he humanly can here. Where are the red dots? What's happening? We see a Silver Colossus coming through, bashing down that storehouse, being very annoying here as the Colossus does end up going down. The town center for Ulysses will end up going up here, and Joe's got a very, very long journey ahead of him if he's going to be able to bring this game back. He still has his Underworld in his grasps. This Bellerophon is distracting a ton of Ulysses Toxotes for the time being here, but currently Toxotes versus Heliopoli, that's not a recipe for success, as Ulysses is slow pushing through here as best as he possibly can. And those Toxotes and Paspis to boot are just not going to be enough to counter this army as Joe retreats away. And we are seeing the Colossus now going after this town center. We see the Bellerophon coming in, so this town center is not going to be going down. The Jason Bellerophon too much for these Silver Colossus. It's going to be taking them down way too quickly. Joe's still going to be fine here, but in terms of keeping that town center alive, but not in terms of being down 40 population, and the army here not trading well. Not only that, Ulysses now got control of the Plenty Vault, so he's technically up 20 village in terms of just raw god power economy here. So he's got that advantage going for him as well, as I mean, obviously Ulysses has got the population advantage, so he's going to be able to sit on this Plenty Vault and live the dream where that's concerned, as another Silver Colossus does come down, does fall down there, and the heroes returning back onto this position. We see a fortress coming down in the middle of the map, and Joe in 25 minutes and 40 seconds does end up tapping out here in this game, ladies and gentlemen. Incredibly well executed play here from Ulysses, though. it's a head scratcher. Joe could have underworlded back onto this position, dealt with this incredibly quickly. His army was actually stronger before the ceasefire in a big way. He had Heliopoli out, so he could have easily killed that underworld, returned back, and just played the game out normally. Had ceasefire if he needed to, but he didn't use it, and that's that. What more can you say? If you guys, I don't know. That's everything here. It all came down to an underworld after all. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this game, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.